feedback is good or bad. No decision for this. No answer. It depends on what you want. So you as an engineer must be able to evaluate the situation in front of you, or the situation you are facing, in order to decide. ماشي؟ نبدأ شوية إن شاء الله. So as we understand from the concept, this is an amplifier. Say, it's input from here, it's output from here. As you, it's the usual situation. لو عايز تسمي ده اسم ممكن نسميه feed forward. feed forward. صح؟ عكس feedback. feed forward يعني ماشي إلى الأمام صح؟ تغذية أمامية أو تغذية عادية يعني. مش تغذية عكسية، مش تغذية رايحة، تغذية عادية. من الانبوت إلى الأوت. طب الفيدباك هيبقى إزاي؟ هيبقى كده. هناخد الأوت كله أو جزء منه. عشان نعبر عن جزء منه دي هنحط هنا feedback network. The feedback network can be as simple as a wire. If you are going to feed back all the output voltage. If you are going to take all the output voltage and feed it back to the input, this is a wire. Otherwise, it can be anything. It can be a number of resistors and the capacitors. Of course, we don't like the inductors, so we will not mention it. So it can be anything. But usually, but not always, a passive network. Passive network يعني ايه؟ ما فيش active element هنا. No active element, no amplifier here, no transistors. It is just resistors, capacitors, wires, nothing else, no more than that. Usually, but not always. Sometimes, very rare cases, it is an active. Usually, it is a passive network. The feedback network is usually a passive network with resistors, capacitors, and wires, of course. And then the output of the feedback network will be fed to the input. It may be added, it may be subtracted. It may be added or it may be subtracted. It depends on what do we want. We will see now what are the consequences of adding or subtracting. But let us assume that here there is a summation network. A network which will make this summation, either adding or subtracting. No, adding or subtracting هم الاثنين summation مش كده؟ إشارة بس مش مشكلة. عليكم السلام. So this summation network is for either adding or subtracting the feedback component from the original input component. Now the original input will be here. This is the input of the amplifier. صح؟ But what is the input of the whole network? يبقى هنا كده أصبح أنا عندي صندوق جديد. إيه الصندوق ده؟ لو حبينا نوصفه، how do you describe this? This is an amplifier with feedback. ليه؟ Because we took output from the amplifier, fed it back to the input. صح؟ And this is the original amplifier without feedback. This is a feedback network. As I said, it can be as simple as a wire, or it can be a combination of resistors, capacitors. In very rare cases, it may be an active element. But here in 303, we consider only the passive network, no active network. And this is a summation network. In order either to add these two components together or subtract them. Depends on what we want. So what is the input of this whole network? This one. This now is the input now, so. And this is the output. This is the output. معي؟ فاهمين الستراكشر ده؟ يبقى عندي أصلاً amplifier. قررت بسبب ما في نفسي هنعرف إيه الأسباب دلوقتي. إن أنا أعمل عليه فيدباك. هعمل إيه؟ حاجة آخذ من الأوتبوت بتاعه سلك أوصله على فيدباك نتورك. الفيدباك نتورك دي ممكن تكون سيل او ممكن تكون ريزيستورز وكاباستورز، مفيش غير كده تقريبا يعني. وبعدين الاوتبوت بتاع الفيدباك نتورك اخده وادخله على سميشن نتورك. احمد خليك معايا. سميشن نتورك will either add or subtract. It depends on what I want. زي as you will see. either add or subtract from the original input. يبقى كأن الانبوت اللي كان المفروض يدخل هنا الان زحزحناه جبناه هنا. صح؟ اصبح ده الانبوت. اصبح ده الانبوت. ده الانبوت بتاع مين؟ of the whole system of the amplifier with feedback. وده الاوتبوت. وده الاوتبوت. معايا؟ So if we call, for example, this input as y, let us say it is y, and call this as x, and call this as z, and say that the feedback network has a coefficient of beta, ratio beta between the input and the output. مش عايز اسميها gain عشان ما تتصورش ان هنا في amplifier، فهنسميها بيتا، ratio beta between its input and its output, because this is the input of the feedback network. And this is the output. So I will call it beta. So how can I express this in terms of mathematics? We cannot live without mathematics, but we are not mathematicians.
بالنسبه للفيرست سايكل ما راح يكون في فيدباك حق
الفيرست سايكل اللي هي من هنا لهنا؟
لا الفيرست سايكل.
لا ده خلاص ده الامبليفاير بس. This is the amplifier بس.
لا احنا في الفيرست سايكل وبعدين الاوتبوت.
بعد ما نحط انت قصدك الفيرست سايكل من اول وجديد خالص؟
من اول ما تبتدي.
طبعا من اول وجديد خالص ما فيش فيدباك. لكن بعدين هنحط الفيدباك. ففي الفيرست the very first cycle there will be no feedback لان there is no output yet. صح؟ لكن بعد كده هيكون في فيدباك. هنوصل للستيدي ستيت سي and there will be feedback. عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. معايا كويس؟ So if we assume that the gain of the amplifier is G, for example, this amplifier has a gain of G, then we can write Z equal to G times X. Z is equal to G times X. صح ولا لا؟ And we can write that the voltage here will be beta G times X. معايا كلام صح؟ And let us assume that this is a negative feedback يعني بنطرح. So what will be X in terms of Y and beta GX?
X equal
X هتساوي Y minus beta GX. مش كده ولا؟ As such, X times 1 plus beta G will be equal to Y. This is the relation between X and Y. Yes. What is Z? اتفضل. Yes, assuming that the feedback voltage is subtracted from the input voltage. It can be the opposite, it can be plus. هنشوفها الآن حاجة. ماشي؟ So this is the relationship between X and Y. يبقى X is equal to Y over 1 plus beta G. But I need Z. What is Z? G times X. Z is equal to G times X, and equal to G Y over 1 plus beta G. So what is Z over Y? This is either
the gain
of the whole system. Yes. The gain of the amplifier with the feedback. Yes. يبقى G is the gain of the amplifier without feedback, standing alone, صح? Now Z over Y is the overall gain of the system, يعني the gain with feedback. فهسميها G with feedback. صح؟ هتساوي ايه؟ هتساوي G over 1 plus beta G. And this is a great result. Why it is great? Let us read it. What this result is telling us? It says that لا بيتا از نوت جريتر ذان 1 يوجوالي اتز ده. عشان تكون بيتا خلي بالك يا عم، عشان بيتا تكون جريتر ذان 1 يبقى لازم يكون في هنا اكتف element. صح؟ احنا اتفقنا ان مفيش اكتف element، فبيتا is usually but not always is usually less than 1. So but what we have
The gain will be smaller.
exactly
Because again,
the gain with feedback will be less than the gain without feedback. This is the gain without feedback.
Yes.
صح؟ By how much? By this quantity. Is this good or bad? Generally speaking, this is bad. Nobody on earth would like to have the gain of his amplifier reduced. Everyone would like to have the highest possible gain. So basically, this is bad. أيوة اتفضل.
بس ممكن لو كانت البيتا غير سمول حيطلع الجيم ممكن اكبر
ازاي؟
ولا مو اكبر
This is
حيطلع
1 plus. This is 1 plus. If G is positive and the beta is positive, definitely this quantity is greater than 1. The denominator will be greater than 1. And as such, the gain with feedback will be less than the gain without feedback, and this is definitely a disadvantage. This is definitely a disadvantage. But this is for a negative feedback, when the feedback component was subtracted from the original input.
Yes.
This is for negative feedback. يبقى ده true for negative feedback. What if the feedback is positive? What if the feedback is positive? بدل هنا minus هتبقى plus مش كده؟ هتبقى plus. وايه اللي هيتغير هنا؟
1 minus
دي هتبقى بدل minus plus مش كده ولا لا؟ صح؟ وهنا بدل plus minus، وهنا minus، وهنا minus، وهنا minus. خلاص بقى ما نقدرش نقول كده. وده هيبقى الجين for positive feedback. أيوه. If we read this, definitely the denominator will be less than 1. So we expect that the gain will be higher. We may